Welcome back to States and Kingdoms. Today we're talking about the Kinks album Arthur from 1969. Sending it to you, Sean.
One of our favorite albums.
That's true.
We haven't talked about the Kinks much at all, but actually the Kinks were really important.
They loom large in our legend. We both got into the Kinks, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first album I got. You know, I obviously everyone knows the Kinks, heard, you know, the big songs, and I was curious, and I really am not sure why I started with Arthur. Maybe because I had read about it somewhere about, I'd already, gotten into The Who. I'd already listened to Tommy, and that was still is one of my very favorite albums. So I don't know, maybe this was somewhat how connected. I thought, I'll go with their, concept album, so-called.
Right.
And, I loved it. And then, of course, it started a whirlwind of ordering every Kinks CD, basically.
Yeah, and I picked it up too. I mean, I remember listening to this and the Village Green Preservation Society probably most, but we listened to everything.
And something else by the Kinks.
Huge Kinks fans. Something that neither our parents they didn't listen to.
No, we didn't get that from them.
Most people will know 2 or 3 Kinks songs. I hope still.
Yeah.
They at least know that.
Yes, I agree.
And we knew those, but yeah, I mean they were a total mystery. One of the times I really dove into a band and listened to them only, really. I mean, just listening to the Kinks for a pretty solid period of time.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, Ray Davies, I think I've said this before, I do think he is the greatest English songwriter.
You've said it before.
I have. I really do. I from that period of time, I'm always amazed by the Kinks songs.
He just has a knack for understanding human nature and different facets therein.
When we talked about Tommy, we were talking about both world wars and the influence and impact on
a lot of English
society, of course.
I mean, English musicians from that time period.
When you have SF Sorrow, Tommy, Arthur, and then and Roger Waters, obviously, and not at the exact same time, but also writing about a lot of those same things. It's really very interesting how they differ. And SF Sorrow is kind of like surreal Dickens in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy is this mythopoetic opera. I mean, genuine opera. Yeah. When we say Roger Waters, Roger Waters, I mean, it's not totally fair to bring him up. I only brought him up because he does do that, but it's kind of later, in Final Cut Pro and Final Cut. But and other things, he obviously has made that
like in the
main
wall,
subject for him.
Shows up here now.
And he handles that differently as well. Definitely more political, more almost journalistic, almost in the way he approaches it, and personal. But but the way Arthur's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, it has a central character. It's not like SF Sorrow or Tommy. Arthur,
it's not a straight narrative.
Right.
You don't see Arthur growing up and then doing this and this. It's just like a collection of vignettes from
Ray writing about his uncle's experiences. I basically, I mean,
it could be one person's life. It could be a number of
many more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very universal thing. Of course, I mean, us coming from the generation we come from, completely different reality than those musicians coming out of England, born in the early 40s. So, I mean, I always found this extremely moving and relatable and touching and all of those things, I'm saying coming from where we're coming from.
Well, I would just go back.
Universal themes.
Yeah. We talked about, in The Who, Pete would, if you're going to have different characters, it would be Roger, John, even Keith.
Right. If you needed a girl, John did his high voice.
Well, or
Pete did his high voice.
In the Kinks, really, I mean, here, it's just Ray Davies varying his voice, doing different characters, but pretty subtly.
Yeah, and he doesn't let Dave sing it hardly at all.
Dave gets
no lead parts the whole album.
It winds up being more like, not exactly something like troubadourish, but a storyteller telling these, you know, these different vignettes in song about Arthur, about, you know, and of course the singer being a participant in it, what he thinks as well. But I don't really feel like you hear like directly from Ray Davies until later in the album.
Yeah, I agree.
Where I think, you know, it
For
really
the last
seems
three
like
songs, all of a sudden it's almost like you become up to date.
Yeah.
And now you're in Ray's,
right.
you know, shoes, and this is now his experience.
Right.
And it kind of, in its way, sums up the entire album.
Just the whole structure of having, you know, these like dramatic vignettes. I keep saying vignette, but it's this word. And then, you know, progressing to the singer's own experiences. And I'm sure, like, Young and Innocent Days to me is definitely seems like the singer's voice.
Yeah,
his
and
voice.
Nothing to Say.
There's nothing quite like it. And, you know, and I mean, he, obviously Ray continued to pursue the more dramatic.
Sure did.
Things.
Truly
in
theatrical
music.
and dramatic. Also, the thing about Arthur that's so interesting is, I mean, it's really not very long. If you want, we can keep comparing it to Tommy in its way. You know, I mean, talking about a lot of double albums, and this is like quite economical in its way. You know, it's just one album, one collection of songs, but it really takes you on this journey, and you know, quite vivid imagery, and it's just amazing the way Ray is able to really embody all of the different perspectives.
Yes.
From this entire, you know, time period, this entire like era of you know, wartime. Very specific, you know.
Something very personal to him.
Yeah.
And to make it more general as well.
Because he basically captures, you know, the soldier, you know, the family, the parents of a soldier, yes. You know, the other relatives, young people at the time, you know, not fighting but living their life, like all this stuff, you know. It's nothing is missed. He really got it all.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Sometimes with authors, songwriters, writing about common people, writing about middle-class people or middle-class complacence or things like that, which are definitely show up in this, you know, no matter what, it doesn't feel like they're part of it. It feels like they're viewing these people from afar. It doesn't feel like that to me at all when you listen to Ray Davies songs about
he's not
judging. The common man. He's not judging anybody. Them. And you feel that he is part of it. He's singing about, you know, himself as well. And I don't know, it's just it's very easy to empathize, very easy to get into the characters. I mean, just, you never feel that there's any distance between him and the people he's singing about. Musically, I absolutely love it, and it is just an incredible melodies, dynamic songs. You know, shifts that, you know, shifts that pass in the night. Shifts that just go along with the lyrics absolutely perfectly, which of course he could do as well as anybody. To me, there's nothing out of place on this record. I mean, there's just, you know, every bit of the story. You know, it's not structured as clearly as some of the other, you know, maybe concept albums, although it's clearer than Sgt. Pepper. But I mean, I know, no, it's not. You know, it's not as clearly delineated as like Tommy or whatever. But the threads running through it really do make perfect sense, I think, and you know, and sum up this story of Arthur. I can't really think of another album really like this.
I've been trying to think of one.
You know,
because it's something that where you've definitely got theming going on, but it's not so. Yeah, it's not such a straight narrative. You know, you're not really following a character through a journey.
Right.
It's really, yeah. I have been trying to think of something.
Not totally spelling it out for you. They're setting the stage. They're showing little glimpses of things. Yeah, it's this woven tale of, you know, of wartime, post-war England and Arthur
It'd probably be
and the
easiest
singer.
to compare it to another Kinks album.
It's true.
Basically.
It's just like low budget.
Yeah. Ray has such a great voice too.
Well, yeah, he does.
He almost has like an everyman's voice. He can be any character. You know, he can really take on like any emotion that he wants. Like his voice somehow just
and we've
has
talked
that
about
kind of quality where it can, you know, you don't think like, oh, Ray Davies, like the most dynamic singer in the world, but his voice is just like really easy to listen to and
intimate.
has like like a real smoothness and a pleasant like tone. There's just something that he can do that is just like it's like he's talking to you.
Well, yes,
and singing.
That is, and then on this he just goes through all his voices. It is a really fascinating thing because no one else that I'm really aware of does that so plainly. Different characters, different nuances, and and kind of just shifting your voice just a little bit, a little bit more nasal, a little bit, whatever it is. And this is a separate character. This is a separate
quite
persona.
An interesting person
in the song. I just think this album's an absolute masterpiece. It's beautiful. And, the fact that he's able to blend the personal and, and it's really not, there's, you could say skepticism, there's some bitterness, there's whatever, things of that sort, but it's not political. It is still very much a personal tale.
Yeah, it's very much, it feels like based in a family. Yeah, it keeps it intimate and then just seems very, relatable. So thank you for watching our brief discussion of Arthur. Please let us know what you think of this album in the comments. Make sure to like this video. Subscribe to States and Kingdoms if you're not already subscribed, and we will see you next time.